This Can't Be Happening at MacDonald Hall by Gordon Korman, age 12. Chapter 14. No End to Miracles. Bruno was sleeping in. Elmer, who had not slept a wink since the incident, could only marvel at his roommate's tranquility. There was a knock at the door. Elmer answered it to admit the office messenger. "Greetings, alien Elmer," the boy pronounced. "I am the bearer of a message from Earth." "For me?" Elmer quavered. "Nope, for Walton, from Mission Control." Elmer breathed a deep sigh of relief. "Bruno, wake up! There's a message for you from Mr. Sturgeon." Bruno rolled over and yawned. "I'm too tired. He'll have to wait." "Oh, no, he won't," said the messenger. "The place is crawling with cops." Bruno bounded out of bed and began to dress. "I just knew that you and your unsavory friend had to be behind that uproar last night," growled George. "This came for you." He handed Boots a message from the office. "Doesn't bother me a bit," shrugged Boots with as much false confidence as he could muster. "I intend to put the blame squarely where it belongs. On you." "You wouldn't dare!" cried George. But Boots was already out the door and gone. He ran full tilt to the faculty building, where he narrowly avoided another collision. Bruno was running from the other direction. "Are you as scared as I am?" asked Boots. "Me? Scared?" lied Bruno. "Never worry about what you can't avoid, I always say." He cleared his throat. "I heard there were cops here this morning." "Oh, no," moaned Boots. "Expelled and arrested." "It's only our first offense," Bruno offered hopefully. "Maybe we'll just get bawled out." "I hope I do get arrested," said Boots grimly. "I'd like to have iron bars between me and the fish. When Kathy dumped that water on his head..." He shuddered, then grinned and added, "I just about cheered." "And when Francisco asked if he was the fish?" "We may be in big trouble," chuckled Bruno, "but it sure was funny. And Miss Scrimmage shooting at the balloon?" "And the way it conked Elmer Drimsdale?" howled Boots. "And then that loony from the UFO Society called the fish an old geezer!" screeched Bruno. "And now the fish is gonna kill us!" screamed Boots. "And the cops are after us!" moaned Bruno. The laughter died abruptly as the boys were jolted from the hilarious past into the uncomfortable present. "Why put it off?" said Boots sadly. "We'd better get in there." They entered the faculty building and found the outer office deserted. "What do we do now?" asked Boots. Bruno shrugged and knocked as lightly as he could on the headmaster's door. "Maybe no one's here," he whispered. "Come in," said a voice they recognized only too well. Bruno and Boots walked into the office like two prisoners about to face a firing squad. Mr. Sturgeon, Francisco Diaz, and a small dark gentleman were waiting for them. Mr. Sturgeon spoke first. "Sir, here are Bruno Walton and Melvin O'Neill, the two boys who rescued Francisco from the balloon. Boys, this is Ambassador Diaz." The small man walked over to Bruno and Boots. He bowed slightly, then shook hands with both of them. "I am Francisco's father," he began. "I find it difficult to express my gratitude to you. You are certainly two very brave and resourceful young men." Boots blushed to the roots of his blonde hair. Bruno's face broke into a grin. "If it had not been for you," Mr. Diaz went on, "my son might well have been lost. I owe you his life. In my country we bestow medals upon people who display such unselfish courage." A strangled sound erupted from Bruno. He covered it up with a bout of severe coughing. Boots felt he had to say something. Bruno was certainly in no condition to speak. "We're very grateful, sir," he finally managed. "Thank you very much." "I have arranged an outdoor assembly for this afternoon," said Mr. Sturgeon, staring at the ceiling. He took a deep breath and continued. "And I understand the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have some medals to present as well." At last Bruno found his voice. "Did you, mention Elmer Drimsdale, sir?" He caught Mr. Sturgeon's eye. Elmer was likely to suffer ridicule for a long time because of his UFO scare. "Elmer spotted the balloon with his telescope and started the, alert," he explained to Mr. Diaz. Mr. Sturgeon's steely gray eyes searched Bruno's earnest dark ones. The headmaster understood. "I shall certainly mention Elmer Drimsdale," he said slowly. "By all means, there will be a medal for him too," said Mr. Diaz. "I wish we could have an official ceremony, but I left Ottawa in such a hurry that I neglected to bring our flag." "That is unfortunate," said Mr. Sturgeon. "I'm afraid MacDonald Hall does not possess a Portuguese flag." "Excuse me?" said the ambassador questioningly. "We are not Portuguese." "Oh," said Mr. Sturgeon in embarrassment. "When I heard Francisco speaking Portuguese, I naturally assumed... that is... what is your country, sir?" The ambassador drew himself up to his full height and announced proudly, I have the honor to represent the government of Malbonia. Twin gasps from Bruno and Boots punctuated the sudden silence. Mr. Sturgeon cleared his throat carefully. In that case, Mr. Diaz, I am pleased to be able to tell you that, by a fortunate coincidence, I just happen to have the flag of Malbonia right here in my safe. But this is splendid! Exclaimed the ambassador. Until 2 o'clock, then. Mr. and Mrs. Sturgeon entertained the ambassador and Francisco at lunch. While the adults were finishing their coffee in the living room, Francisco glanced over the morning's Globe and Mail. The politely hushed conversation was suddenly interrupted by a peal of laughter from the boy. What is it, Francisco? Asked Mr. Diaz. Francisco could hardly speak. Read this, sir, he said, handing the paper to Mr. Sturgeon. The headmaster adjusted his glasses and read the article aloud. Bank robbers snagged by net, Buffalo, New York. 3 armed bank robbers were apprehended by a volleyball net, which fell on them as they were being chased by police early this morning. Almost $500,000 was recovered. Police are still baffled about the origin of the net, which, according to the report, dropped suddenly from the sky, entangling the fugitives. The net bears a tag reading MacDonald Hall. Mr. Sturgeon looked up from the newspaper and met his wife's eyes. It would appear, Mildred, he sighed, that there is no end to these miracles. Under the bright Ontario sunshine and the briskly fluttering flag of Malbonia, Bruno Walton, Boots O'Neill, and Elmer Grimsdale were solemnly decorated with that country's medal of civic heroism. The entire faculty and student body of MacDonald Hall were present, as well as the girls from Miss Scrimmage's finishing school for young ladies, who cheered lustily. Standing on the platform were representatives of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Ontario Provincial Police, and the MacDonald Hall Board of Directors. In addition to the Malbonian Medal, each boy received the RCMP Bravery Medal and the OPP Youth Award. Bruno looked down at his chest. 3 medals gleamed on the front of his best navy blue blazer. He glanced at Elmer standing beside him, then past Elmer at Boots. Even in their moment of glory, Bruno reflected, the fish had seen to it that he and Boots were separated. The ceremonies had just ended and the boys were making polite conversation with the officials when their attention was diverted by the arrival of yet another police car. It proceeded up the driveway and halted next to the platform. Boots poked Bruno. New York State Police? He whispered questioningly. Bruno shrugged. Who knows? They stared as 2 tanned uniformed state troopers got out of the car, opened the trunk, and took out a volleyball net. I expect you're wondering about that, said Mr. Sturgeon's voice behind them. It was in the morning paper. It seems that the net found its way to Buffalo just in time to capture 3 bank robbers. Bruno spun around to face the headmaster. You're kidding! He exclaimed. Mr. Sturgeon shook his head. I never kid. Coach Flynn hurried forward to retrieve his volleyball net. I don't know how it got to Buffalo, said one of the officers, but it sure came in handy. Thanks a lot. The 2 officers got back into their patrol car and drove off. As the crowd began to disperse, Mr. Snow, chairman of the board of directors, turned to Mr. Sturgeon. William, he said, everyone has rewarded these fine boys except MacDonald Hall. Quite right, Jim. The headmaster turned to his students. Elmer, what can the school do for you? Elmer was in a daze. He had no idea why he had been awarded the 3 medals which now hung on his jacket. He was merely grateful that no one was about to expel him. Ask for a new telescope, Elm, suggested Bruno in a stage whisper. Yours got banged up in the, excitement. What's that? A telescope? Repeated Mr. Snow. Granted, I will personally take you shopping for it next week. And what about our other 2 fine young heroes? Well, said Bruno, trying to word his request with great care, we're pretty good friends, sir, Melvin and I. We'd like to room together. Mr. Snow smiled broadly. That's certainly not an unreasonable request, he said. William, is there any reason why these 2 boys can't be roommates? Mr. Sturgeon sighed, then spoke slowly. Not a reason in the world, Jim. I believe room 306 is vacant. They can move into it immediately. Boots crammed the last of his possessions into his suitcase. Well, that's it, he said. Goodbye, Melvin, sneered George. I hope you haven't forgotten anything. Goodbye, George, said Boots. About all those mean things I did to you. Yes, said George expectantly. If I had half the chance, Boots grinned wickedly, I'd do them all again. And I hope Magnico goes down 50 points. The next time a balloon gets lost, I hope you're aboard, snapped George. I'll do my best, promised Boots, to land on you. Then he was gone. Bruno's departure was slightly warmer. About all those rotten stunts, Elm, he said. It was nothing against you, really. I'm sorry I've made your life miserable. On the contrary, said Elmer sadly, I think I'm going to miss you. Here, I have a little gift for you. Elmer held out a small glass bowl which contained a lively baby goldfish. His name is Bruno, he said shyly. He hatched in the bathtub yesterday. I'd like you to have him. Wow, said Bruno, and quickly helped himself to some of the aquarium supplies on the table. So you do like him? Elmer asked. Like him? I'm crazy about him, Bruno replied. You're a good friend, Elmer. You're a good friend, too, Elmer said. It was you, wasn't it, who got me all those medals and the new telescope? Bruno shrugged. Well, look at it this way. Since you spotted the balloon, Francisco would have been saved anyway. You're a hero too, Elm. With his suitcase in one hand and the fishbowl in the other, Bruno left dormitory 2. He moved slowly, almost reluctantly, until he caught sight of his old room. The blinds were up, and he could see Boots hanging up the old movie posters. Home sweet home, he sighed. About the author. Gordon Korman wrote his first book, This Can't Be Happening at MacDonald Hall, as a 7th grade English project. By the time Korman had graduated from high school, he had written and published 5 other books, including Go Jump in the Pool, Beware the Fish, and The War with Mr. Whizzle, all available in Apple paperback editions from Scholastic Inc. Korman is now studying film and screenwriting at New York University. Between semesters, he finds time to answer piles of fan mail and make personal appearances across the country. The end.